The lock was human-built, and Vesh Tannic had been chewing the same problem for 3 days. It had no keyhole. She crouched in the airlock throat of the relay station, 1,200 kilometers above a planet her people had given humanity as a grave. The Concord called it generosity. One world, marginal, cold at the poles, and a single transit ring to reach it, the ring her ancestors had built and then handed over when they decided humans were too volatile to keep near the core systems. Exiled, but politely. With a door home, technically, that no human would ever be cleared to open. Except the door was shut now, from the human side, and the ring would not answer. "Talk to me," she said into her collar. Behind her, Orrin Welsh sat against the bulkhead with his knees up, an old man in a patched pressure suit, watching her work with the flat patience of someone who had watched a great deal of things. He had been the station's last maintenance lead before the humans were rotated out. He had volunteered to stay behind for the handover. That was 4 years ago. "You keep poking the panel," he said. "It is not a panel problem. It is a software lock. Software locks have keys. This one doesn't." He scratched his jaw. "Not the kind you mean." Vesh's species read trust through scent, faint chemical honesty leaking off the skin, and Orrin's told her nothing. Humans barely produced it. That blankness was half the reason the Concord had feared them. You could not smell a human lie. You had to listen to the words and decide, like a primitive, whether to believe. She straightened. "The ring stopped accepting transit codes 110 days ago. The same day your last food convoy was due and never came. Your people are starving down there. Orrin, I came to open the door. I know why you came." He stood, slow, one hand on the wall. "Cold metal tells the truth first. That's what my foreman used to say. Touch the line before you trust the gauge." "What does that mean?" "It means come look at the thing you flew up here to fix." He led her down the spine of the station to the ring control vault. It was a round room, warm lit, and at its center stood a console grown over with hand tools wrenches, a torque bar. A coil of safety line laid across the interface like offerings on an altar. Frost rimed the far wall. Something behind it ran cold. "The lock isn't in the software," Orrin said. "The software's fine. We changed what the ring is checking against." He tapped the console. A schematic bloomed, the transit ring, and at its heart a calibration core that confirmed every ship's clearance before the ring would open a corridor home. "Every transit needs the core to say yes," he said. The core compares the incoming ship against a master pattern. Concord ships. Concord clearances. It's been doing that for 200 years. He looked at her. "We swapped the master pattern. The core no longer recognizes the Concord. It only recognizes us." Vesh felt the room tilt. "You locked yourselves in. We locked everyone out." He said it without heat. "The ring will open for a human transponder. Only a human transponder. We rewrote the one thing the door asks before it opens, and we made the answer a thing your people can't be." It was elegant, and it was insane. The Concord could not force the ring. Forcing it would collapse the corridor and the station both. They could only ask. And the door had been taught to refuse them in a language they could not fake, because the pattern it now checked for was woven from something human hands had done to the core by hand, a physical recalibration, layered, irregular. The kind of work no clean Concord protocol would ever produce. "Then open it for me," Vesh said. "Put the old pattern back. I have a convoy waiting at the boundary with 1,100 tons of grain. Your people eat tonight." Orrin didn't move. "You have a convoy," he said. "You also have a fleet behind it." She didn't answer fast enough. "There it is," he said quietly. "I can't smell a lie either, girl, but I can hear one breathe." The fleet was real. She had argued against it in the Concord chamber and lost. The reasoning had been clean, and that was the horror of it, clean enough that she'd almost nodded along. Humans had seized a transit ring, a choke point. Today it was a door they'd shut to keep their families fed. Tomorrow it was a weapon aimed at the core worlds, a knife held to the throat of every system the ring connected. You did not let a desperate, unreadable species hold the only road. You took the road back. The grain convoy was true. The fleet behind it was truer. She had told herself the grain mattered more. Standing in the warm vault with the frost creeping at the wall, she could not remember why she had believed that. If you open it for the convoy, the fleet comes through behind it, Orrin said. They retake the ring. Then there's no door we control. Then we're back to asking the Concord's permission to feed our own children, and we already learned how that ends. He nodded at the cold wall. So we built something that can't be argued with. What's behind the wall, Orrin, the core. And a man named Peter Volk, who recalibrated it by hand and is still down there finishing the last of the pattern, because it has to be done live or it won't take. A pause. He's been in there 9 days. The vault holds heat. It does not hold air the way it should. We lost the scrubber on day 6. Vesh understood then what the tools on the console were. Not offerings. Inventory. The careful accounting of people who knew exactly what they were spending. He's dying in there. He's finishing in there. Orrin's voice did not break, but something under it had been broken a long time and was holding anyway. When the pattern's done, this door only ever opens for us. Not the Concord. Not your fleet. Us. And nobody up the chain has to decide again whether we're allowed to live. There's a third option, Vesh said. Her hands had gone cold. Open it halfway. Cycle the convoy through on a single corridor, narrow enough the fleet can't follow. I can do that from here. I know the ring better than your Petar Volk. Orrin studied her. The blankness in his scent gave her nothing, and for the first time in her life she was grateful, because she did not want him reading what she was about to do. You'd need to interrupt the calibration to widen a corridor, he said. Even a narrow one. Briefly stops it taking. Petar starts over. Petar doesn't have another 9 days of air. Then we get him out first. We can't reach him until the pattern's set. The vault won't unseal mid-write. You know how a live calibration works. You touch it, it dies, and so does he, for nothing. He tilted his head. You're not offering to save my people. You're offering to save your conscience and call it the same thing. The accusation landed because it was accurate. A narrow corridor would feed them tonight and lose them the door forever. And she had known that. And she had offered it anyway because it would let her go home having opened something. She thought of the chamber, the clean argument, the fleet she'd voted against, and then climbed aboard. What do you want from me? She said. Nothing. Orrin sat back down against the wall, the way he'd been when she came in, like a man who had already done the hard part and was only waiting now. I wanted you to see it, so that when you fly back and tell them the door can't be opened, you'll know it's true, and you won't waste Petar by trying. The console chimed, a soft final tone. On the schematic, the master pattern locked green and went still. Behind the cold wall, something stopped running. Orrin closed his eyes for a moment. Just one. Then he opened them and got back to his feet, and his scent told her nothing at all, and she believed every blank inch of it. It's done, he said. He finished. Vesh stood in the warm room with 1,100 tons of grain waiting at a boundary she could now never widen, and a fleet behind it that would turn around because there was nothing left to take, and she found she was glad. That was the thing she would carry back and never be able to explain in the chamber. She was glad the door had refused her. "The convoy," she said. "Can it still a human transponder opens the ring?" Orrin walked to the console and lifted the coil of safety line off the interface, freeing it. "Yours doesn't, mine does." He held out a transit key, old, worn smooth at the grip. "You go back to your fleet and your boundary. I cycle the grain through, alone, on my codes, and the corridor shuts behind it. Your ships stay home. My people eat, and the door stays ours. That key dies with you," she said. "When you're gone, no one up here opens anything. Down there's a girl named after her grandmother who can already strip a scrubber blind." He almost smiled. "We'll teach the door new hands." She took the long walk back to her shuttle alone. At the airlock she stopped, because someone had hung something on the wall where the Concord handover plaque used to be. She'd noticed it on the way in and not understood it. A maintenance foreman's torque bar, mounted flat, and under it a strip of tape with a single line in blocky human print. It said, "Cold metal tells the truth first." She left it there. She flew back to a fleet she would order to turn around, to deliver a truth no one in the chamber would smell on her, and all of them would have to decide, like primitives, whether to believe.